everyone, Lynda here, the scrapbooking photographer. I'm back again this week doing the hop for the girls from the lands down under, and I'm also mixing it with the Mix It Up Monday hop, which was due to go live last Monday, but I figure the video is going to be there forever, so what's a week between friends. So this is the sketch for Mix It Up Monday, which is a great sketch, and I'm looking forward to putting it together. There's a little bit of mixed media, obviously, for Mix It Up Monday, which I'll put underneath these photos of the Kiwi. The land of the girls down under. Our hop is differentiating the things between Australia and New Zealand. We are, in fact, two different countries, and the Kiwi is the national bird of New Zealand. Our national rugby league team is called the Kiwis, and we have the Kiwi on our New Zealand, or made in New Zealand sign. It's a nocturnal bird, comes out at night, and it's very much protected. Not far from where we live, which is in the Waikato, there is a sanctuary where the Kiwi are bred. So this particular day, my husband and I went to Mangatari mountain, and we timed our visit with when they were doing a Kiwi health check. And so we got out into the bush and followed this chap in to find this Kiwi who they measured his beak and they weighed him, and we did get to have a hold of him. I had already been, so I didn't get to hold him this time because I had done before, and there's limited numbers of hands that obviously they want on the birds. But my husband did get to hold the Kiwi. And for some reason, when I got this photo printed, they laminated it. I have no idea why, but I'm going to have to print it again because that will be on the companion page. So let's get working on these. First thing I'm going to do is cut these down a little bit and put them onto some backing, and then we'll get into the mixed media. I ummed and ahed about what colours to put with these photos. The red shirt of the guide that we went with is pretty dominant, but the photos couldn't be black and white, which is an option to get rid of the red because we needed to see the brown of the Kiwi. And I almost put some red into the layout, but it was just too strong a colour and it takes away from the brown Kiwi. The other thing that I thought about too was a green, a sage green, but again, there's nothing really in the photos to reflect that. And even the bird itself tends to wander through the dead leaves and the debris in the bottom of the forest. So it's very much a brown Kiwi living in a brown environment. So I figured brown was the way to go in the end. So what I've done is used a mocha piece of cardstock from close to my heart to mount the photos, and I'm going to take an inch off each side of this lighter brown colour, more natural colour from the Hope and Kindness pack. The background that will go behind that is this checkered paper, which has got the brown and just a little bit of interest in it as well. Now in the sketch the photos are 3x2, and obviously mine are a little bigger than that, so I'm going to end up putting them on the layout so that it covers as much of that red as we can, and we try and make the Kiwi more of a feature rather than that bright red t-shirt. I'll just go around underneath where the photos are going to go and put my pencil marks so that I don't waste any mixed media in the wrong place and have it looking the right and that it's been put there intentionally. And the first thing I'm going to use is the stencil of big leaves, and just using the blending brush with the mocha ink to go lightly over the top of these leaves. I think they give quite a nice big background. I've got some smaller leaves to go on top of them, but initially I'll use these big ones to set the scene. I'll use both sides of the stencil, and ideally it would be good to clean one side before you turn it over, but you'll see me there just flip it to put some going the other way, and that gives you double use out of the stencil, but you just have to be careful that there's not marks being transferred onto the paper. And you can see that there is a little one there, but I'll cover it with texture paste. So I've got my texture paste out to use with the smaller leaves,
and shoveling a little piece out with my palette knife and putting the mocha ink straight onto the glass plate, I can mix the two together, and the texture paste, because it's white, means that the mocha will be toned down to a lighter brown colour, so it will be in contrast with the dark brown anyway. But I'm also adding a little bit of gold stickles just to see what happens really, and I hope it gives a little bit of a shiny effect on the smaller leaves when I put them in there. So I'll use as much of this as I can on the layout, and you can see that there's all sorts of different shaped leaves on this stencil, and just spreading the texture paste over the top will give me a nice spread on top of those bigger leaves that I put on the base. So I'm not being particularly careful to stay at the edge of a leaf. It doesn't matter if there's a part of a leaf showing, but when I move the stencil, I do need to be careful that the edge doesn't cover what I've just done, because it does take a little while to dry and I don't want to smudge it or upset it. So I'll do that in a few different spots, probably 4. I think I do 4, and that will finish the texture paste up. And I think the gold is coming through okay, but we'll have a look when it's dry and see if we can still see any of that glitter. I really like using texture paste on a page. It's not something I have done a lot of in the past, but in the last year or so I've really taken to it, and it does provide an extra texture to the artwork that goes behind our photos. So I'm just about finished with this now, and I've got some left over in my texture paste, so I'll just put it on a piece of scrap paper or scrap cardstock where I think it will work and fit nicely, so I can use it sometime in the future on another project. So once I've done all that, I will go away and have a good clean up, and then I'll be back when everything's dry and we can see what it looks like. So it's a little later in the day now, and I've come back to have a look at how it's gone, and you can see a little bit of that gold glitter in the page, and I'm really happy with that. So now I can stick it on to that back piece of plaid paper, but before I do that, I'll gut the middle out of it. These papers can go so much further if we take the middle out of bits that we don't need, and the other advantage is that it makes the page lighter in your album. So when you have, imagine, loads of pages in an album, if they've all got 2 layers, then it's quite heavy. So you can reduce the weight in the album by taking out the back of a piece of paper like this. So I can put this on here, and then I've got to work out which way it was. There we go. So I can place the photos back the way I had them. Now I know I wanted to even them up on the right hand side, those 2 on the outside, and cover as much of the red shirt as we could as I put them down. So I'll stick those down where we had them, and I like the way that the leaves are peeping out from behind, so it looks like that's worked okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is pop the journaling box down in the bottom left hand corner. So I'll start with a piece of mocha that matches the backing that we've put on the photos, and I'll really want it to fit in there with the same kind of frame around the outside, so it doesn't cover all of that mixed media that we've put in there. But when I bring this lighter piece of brown paper in, the one from the Hope and Kindness, it's a scrap and it's not quite wide enough to fill the gap. So I improvise and trim the back off it, and then introduce an extra little piece of this plaid that we've got in the background, so that it will fill up that space nicely and fit evenly. So going around the edge of this with a little bit of my blending brush, just because of the white core, and I don't want that strip of white to be showing on the page. So I've done that, and then I can stick it all together and pop it in place. And the next thing I need to do is the little tab up the top on the left hand side. I'll make that out of the mocha cardstock as well, and initially I thought I might back it with a little piece of the plaid cardstock as well, but after I've cut the fishtail, I didn't measure it against the angle of the squares on the cardstock. So I decided to ditch that and just go with the one layer of mocha cardstock for that tab. And that's where I'll focus the title when I've made it. And I'll do that in a moment. But before then, I will just nip away and do the journaling in that little box down the bottom. And just explaining the where, why and when, so that we know that in the future. And then the excitement comes to get out this new machine, which is the mini cut and emboss machine from Stampin' Up. It replaces a part of the function of my Cuttlebug that I've got. This is the mini version, so it only does small thin cuts or dies, and it's perfect for these alphabets. So it came with probably 5 or 6 different plates, and it took me a little while to figure out the combination I needed. There probably is some instructions there, but us Kiwis don't necessarily like reading instructions. So I found which one worked, and it was a little bit sad to scar that first plate when it goes through. So as I progress with this, I'm going to try and keep the scarring just to one of those cutting plates. So very handy to have on the desk and be able to pull it out and do these little cuts. And it'll be interesting to see how big a thin cut I can use in it. So I haven't experimented too much yet, obviously. So I'm cutting out the letters from a close to my heart alphabet, which just says Kiwi visit. And there's lots of I's, so 4 I's we need for this title, so it takes a few goes through to get all the letters that I need. And because I've cut them out from the same paper as we used on the layout, they blend a little bit too easily at the moment, as you can see when I put them on the page. So I'm going to use my blending brush and go over them with a little bit of mocha ink. So my theory is that that will make them a little bit darker than the page, the Hope and Kindness paper, but it won't be as dark as the mocha that we've used in the tab. So they should show up against both colours that will be behind them. And while I position those on the page, you'll see that I want them in an arced way, so Kiwi going in an upwards curve and the visit in a downwards curve. But I'll just remind you that this is part of 2 hops, this video. So for other inspiration on the sketch, visit the Mix It Up Monday playlist, which will be listed in the description below. And also have a look at the other videos from the girls from the lands down under, where this month we're concentrating on animals. So I know there's one video coming out about the Tasmanian devil, and that's from Mel at Mel W Scrapping. So those links will be in the description below. So now I've got these letters where I want them on the page. I just need to stick them down, which I'll do off camera, and clean this glass mat. It's so easy to clean. I'm really impressed with this. It's another thing that I've just received from Stampin' Up. So another hit. So once these letters are down, the only thing left to do is to add a few embellishments. So I had a look in my stash to see what I had, and the best thing that fitted really were these gold glitter gems. So I'll just put a few up the top in the tab there, which is similar to what the sketch had, and then I'll put a couple more down the bottom. And that's about it for this page. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you stopping by and spending the time, and I hope you've got some inspiration from watching today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then perhaps today's the day to do so, and you can join me on the scrapbooking journey where we do all sorts of things and on hops and discover more things about Stampin' Up as we go through. Enjoy today and whatever you're doing, and happy crafting, everyone.